All right, well, this should be a relatively short meeting. We have two tasks for July, well, actually before April. One is to present a slate of officers at the April meeting. And then the second would be to recommend persons to the city council to fill the two vacancies that we will have. So that's where we are.
Yep. And I heard from Janine that she very specifically does not want to be chair.
Yeah, you sent that.
I couldn't remember if I shared that or not. Okay.
She doesn't want to be chair of COA.
COA.
Right.
Yeah, right.
So we got to think through what's the best thing to do with this roster. And now let's think about do y'all want to try to figure out who we like out of I haven't read all of these yet. We got a number of names, and I saw that list of names that that came in through the city's website, expressions of interest. And I don't know enough about the reasons for their interest. I really don't want to bring somebody in who would like to use a wrecking ball on the program, if I can help it. But we can wait until March 9, and when all of the expressions of interest nominations close, right, and then deal with it. That happens on the 8th, and we deal with it on the 9th.
We can. The other suggestion I might have is that for those who did fill out the online form but did not submit a cover letter or anything like that, staff could reach out and say, nominations committee received your name. Could you please provide us with a short summary of your interests and expertise or something like that, so that you have that next time.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
So on this list that you gave us, do you know whether these people submitted a letter of interest? And last time you gave us a link to a Dropbox that had everything.
Right. That's because there was nobody submitted anything through that form, no attachments. So I have no additional information for them, or I would have provided that.
Okay, that Keith Donahue, he said he submitted his resume to Colette or Aaron or somebody.
His email said that he submitted it through the online form, but I don't remember seeing that name on the list.
Yeah, his name is on the list.
Yeah, if he did do it, then it didn't go through, because she did send me an attachment, but it was from someone who had expressed interest. It was Tanya Culpepper, and she had expressed interest last year. That's the only attachment that she provided. So if he submitted it, it didn't go through. So that's the other thing, is I can tell them, for whatever reason, your attachment didn't go through. So, and I can get names from her about once a week, and that way I can follow up with them. So that we have all that for the 9th.
And then also we received a resume from Charlie Blunt, but it doesn't appear that he has submitted anything, at least as of Friday, through the online portal.
Right. And there's not a requirement that you have to submit it through the online portal at this point. That's something that just lives out there all the time on the RHGC page on the city's website. It's always there. Someone can click it and express an interest. But because this committee exists, if they reach out to us, otherwise we don't need that. So Charlie, he put together, so he's a doer. He put together the index to the non-recorded plats and survey drawings done by Charles Mann and others at the Wake County Register of Deeds. So he's a history fellow.
Now, who is that?
Charlie Blunt. He was on the research committee as a non-commissioner volunteer for about 3 or 4 months, but dropped off, I think primarily because we were doing a whole lot of talking and not a whole lot of doing at the time. And he had his own projects. He's an older white gentleman.
Oh yeah, it seemed like I remember him. He was on when I was on research.
Yeah.
All right. The list, the spreadsheet that Tanya sent out, it does have a drop down for all these categories so that you can tell what experience they've got. It checks boxes on all the various committees they've ever been on, their academics and the like. So it doesn't say, what it doesn't really give you is the nature of their interest or that sort of thing, I think, where we could use a little bit more information.
Right.
But there is a surprising amount of information when you look at the drop downs in the various categories. Job titles, education, volunteer experience, that sort of thing. I didn't read them all, but I read several, and yeah, they've got a lot of stuff there. Some of them do. But we don't really know at this point whether they fill that out. Well, no, I guess you've got a date here when they submit.
Yep. Yep.
So some of these are last summer or last a year ago, but 3 or 4 of these are since this thing got posted, I guess.
Yeah, four of them
Mm-hmm.
are after it got sent out.
Yeah. Do you all know any of them? Donahue, Simpson, Berner, Phillip?
Sandra Simpson, I recognize from, isn't she the realtor?
He's a
that
real
was-
estate broker.
Yeah, and she was working with Gables for a while, I feel like, and perhaps some others.
He's with Trademark Properties.
Right.
Right.
So I recognize her name from that, but that's all I know. And it looks like Bridget Phillips is in Oakwood. 220 Northeast, that would be Oakwood.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will get them to reply with a why interested.
It looks like it's Keith Donahue. He used to live in Oakwood, but he currently lives in Cameron Park in the Cheshire House.
Okay.
But he's lived in 5 rehabbed historic properties.
So that would be what we would call demonstrated interest in historic preservation.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, probably
Okay, so I'll ask them. I'll ask them why are they interested, and what would you bring to the commission?
Yeah. And maybe something in the particular aspects of their interest, so we could have a clue whether they might be handy on research or on
Right,
COA
right.
or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, do you want to try to reach out to folks that are not on this list here and ask them to go ahead and put that stuff in so we got it? Or of these, because we do have some other names that are not on this list here that have told us they were interested for one reason or another.
If so, they have a choice. if they're not going to fill out the form, then they should send you or staff or Kay, an email letter of interest and resume.
Okay. What do y'all think about Laurie and Curtis, people that have already been on, obviously have a lot of interest, are helpful when they're on, or whatever? Or do you think that all in all, we should use this opportunity to pull in some of the other folk and reach out to some, get new blood or whatever?
So right now on COA, we've got a lot of new blood. So I really like the idea of having, additional experience to help, shepherd it through, because having 3 new people, and then if we got a 4th new people, that's always very challenging, and that is, I think, part of what happened in 2013 with all the fun excitement that went on then, is that we also had a largely new committee. So having the experience helps pass along that, institutional knowledge. Staff does a part for sure. So I do like it that way.
I would also add that the benefit of either of those, based on the list that we have of interest, I think only one lives in a district. So both Curtis and Laurie would help fill, because I think we need one, right?
Right.
Additional person. And I think based on just looking at the addresses, I think it's Bridget on the list is the only one.
Right.
Who would live potentially in Oakwood, my guess is.
And the other one who's expressed interest is not on this list, but told me he wanted to be considered was Mike Davis, who lives on Boundary and would be in the district.
So
and he might be one. I need him to do a letter on whatever.
Yep.
I sent him a copy. I sent him a copy of the advertisement. And asked if he was still interested to follow the instructions in the advertisement.
Okay, good. Well, then maybe we've done what we need to do on that.
But it won't hurt for you to, for you to talk to him since you had the conversation with him before. But.
Yeah. His wife's a good friend of mine, and we've done a lot of stuff together. I know him mostly because he shows up with her at events, and but I'm sure he'll do a good job if he decides to do it. So.
Yeah, he's a PR person.
Yeah, and so when we were talking about it, if the focus right now is on community awareness, then it won't hurt to bring in someone with strength in that regard, and particularly someone who is older, I think. And who probably has a lot of connections too to help get things done. So there would be that. So anyway, do we need to do any more about names for the moment? Other than that's what we need to do there to get that in shape to deal with next month. Of course, we could wind up with any of these people anyway, because they don't have to go through us. They can speak to their council person and wind up being here anyway.
That's true.
So we only guide the process a little bit. So Kay, is Bridget Phillips, is she African American? Do you know?
I don't think so. All of these people on this list are white.
Okay, that's right.
That's what it says. That's what it says.
Yeah.
I don't.
It says it someplace, didn't it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to get that over to the left side of my screen so I can still see your faces, but
Oh,
so I'm cutting off some of these headings.
Oh, they were all right, actually, though, with one person, the fellow from that applied in
Alexander
September, yeah,
Cassandra.
being Hispanic or Latino. So,
Okay. Yeah, all right. Well then, so what do you want to do now, Kay? You want to talk about officers and drafting people for those jobs or what?
Yeah, we can talk about that. Never hurts to talk about it.
Yeah, we better figure out what we think, I guess. We need a chair and a vice chair, right?
Yes.
Um, so I had thought about thought about Janine, but that was for COA, and we still got to think about what to do on the COA. It seems to me. I think that's challenging. So you sort of start backing your way around to what do you need to do? Because to me, the COA is the in a way the tail wags the dog. We need to make sure that works right. And so if Janine doesn't want it, and if beyond that she won't do it, because we haven't leaned on her yet, but it could be that we'd have to use Ian for that.
well, except that Ian's an alternate, and he's chair of research.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I'm never worried. I'm not worried about him being an alternate, but I am worried about losing him on research. And because I think that's really good stuff. His ability to dredge up things is just remarkable. So I don't want to lose that, but I'm not sure of what all our other choices.
I would ask for Shay. I think for Shay would do a really good job if she's interested.
Yeah, I think I was telling Kate, Brashay is made some of the best comments. She's very soft-spoken. But we're probably not going to get a chair for COA or otherwise who's as mouthy as I am. So, but Brashay is awfully quiet, but if she contributes a lot. I think she's a rising star. It's just a question of whether we should go on and figure we're going to have to use her for COA, and that's that.
Well, and it doesn't have to be forever. We can look at this, each year. I mean, I think she is soft-spoken, but she's also not a pushover. So I think that lends itself very well to moving meetings along.
All right. Well, if we want to try to pencil her in there, then I think we ought to try to get Gaston for the chair spot because he can probably he can run the meetings and things like that, I believe. What do y'all think about that? Looking up and down at what we got.
I think in terms of experience, Gaston makes a lot of sense. I think he can handle it. I mean, as anyone who hasn't been a chair before, and I don't know what he has done, before the last year since I got here, but as long as he knows how the meetings are run and what you have to do to push it through,
I don't know. I'd be concerned about keeping things on track. He does branches, but given a different role,
if he's the one in charge of having to push the meeting forward, that he would do that.
One of the great things about being chair is you don't have to make motions, and so and you got to rein in the discussion some, because if you run your own mouth too much, you got to give time for everybody else to do the same. So yeah, anyway, I thought maybe him, and then I don't know. You want to do Ian as the vice chair?
if Ian's interested, I think he'd be great.
Well, when we went over there to pick up that carpet and stuff, I told him he was going to need to be prepared to help lead this stuff. And we talked a little bit about that while we were cutting up that carpet and stuff. So I don't think it's a slam dunk, but I think he's certainly aware that he's going to be considered for these things. And he can be vice chair and he can still chair research.
Right.
Right.
Well, and I think when it comes to Gaston, we'd also want to make sure that he would be open. It's an additional meeting a month. And I know he has, like a lot of people, other obligations. So that would be.
In the past, he had concern about also being able to accommodate the schedule for Friends of Oberlin.
But I think he's about to come off of Friends of Oberlin. At least that's what
That's
he
what
said.
he said. Yeah. Yeah. And Ian's already coming to executive, so it's not an additional meeting.
Right. Katie has said she would agree to continue as secretary treasurer, but she also said she might be interested in being vice chair if, we didn't have anybody else. We were slotting for that, and she wanted to know what the duties were. But
well, let's see now. Can y'all help me? So Katie's in her first 2 years.
Yes. Hold on. Let me pull that back up.
She will be. She's going to be reappointed this time. She's eligible for reappointment.
So she'll just be starting her second
She'll
term.
be starting her second term. Mm-hmm.
And how about Ian?
Ian, he is in his second term now. He was reappointed last July.
Okay. So it seems to me that Katie and Heather are in the group that's in their first term. And so I would be looking more at people who are in their second or third term probably.
So Travis is in his third, but I feel like he's pretty tapped.
The baby.
Yeah, time-wise.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I think I'd rather get whatever time he's got and get that applied to the website or whatever.
And then on top of that, Harold has also had a new baby. And he expressed interest early on in being in research rather than COA.
True.
If we're able to accommodate that, I think we should consider it.
Yeah, and his attendance generally has been spotty anyway, and it's hard to do. You need the regular members of the COA to be there most of the time, and not have to not assume you're always going to be needing an alternate. So even if many months we do end up needing an alternate, so I would like to see Harold get where he can give us more time, but I'm also fine to move him to the research, because I remember, that was his preference.
So if that's the case, then we would want 2 strong people for COA. For the vacancies.
Yeah. And so we would have to look at the range of strength. Let's see. I should have printed off our current roster or whatever so I could keep up with this. But if we think that we got Gaston as the chair, Ian as the vice chair, in a way, we don't need to set the committees till we find out what we got.
Right.
At which point I won't be in the meeting, and neither will Kay. But yeah, I agree with you that we need to think about. By the way, on John Reese, I did share with him while we were over there doing the demolition by neglect that the word I'd gotten about fourth hand by the grapevine was that the COA committee needed more training, and he said, "Well, I admit I do, but I am trainable." And and so I think he can be good, but he's not there yet, and he's a little prone to decide whether he likes the applicant or not, and decide that this ought to be fine without following up on what are the precedents and where might this lead. So again, he's in his first term, and I think the leadership needs to be elsewhere. So that's me. But anyway, so for COA then, we figure Verche, and but we need, like I said, we need a stronger and if we figure that, well, we will leave Janine there, then it's not too bad to have Verche run it and Janine make the motions and help carry the thing, and John will do it once Verche learns how to put words in their mouth to get the meeting to move. In a way, I hate for the virtual to get over with because it allows me to look at the screen, pick a face that's nodding affirmatively, and go ahead and put the motion in their mouth. And we've gotten through these things pretty fast that way. So we've got Gaston, we got Ian, we got Verche. We'd have Janine on the committee. So we could probably do with, if we want to pull in Laurie or Curtis, then we could have them on COA. But then we'd have one other spot for something else. What other strengths are needed as far as who to put up? This is assuming that we don't see anybody on this list of names from Culpepper down to Phillips that we assume right off that they would be a good fit on COA. There's not really a design person in the group, is there?
I don't think so.
Right. So.
There's Gregory Adams. He's some kind of engineer, but I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, he's with Kimberly Horn. They usually do development type work, traffic studies, things like that.
He's a civil engineer. He has a bachelor's and a master's in civil engineering.
Yeah, well, it would be, if he has an interest, it's not because of his work, because his work doesn't lead to this kind of historic districts, rehab, and those kinds of things, I don't think. Their work is all associated with big projects and commercial developments and things of that kind, I believe. So I can understand the realtors, but anyway, if we are thinking about Curtis or Laurie, of course, I think a lot of both of them, and so I don't have a problem with it as far as that goes. But I haven't been at the I haven't actually worked with Curtis in 10 years, but you all have seen him at the DRAC, and I assume he's pretty consistently there compared to some of the others, or is that not true?
No, they're all really all over the map. It's rare that we have the same three several times in a row.
Curtis has been in almost every meeting since I've gotten here.
Oh, really? Okay.
He's the most consistent.
Okay. Well, then good. Maybe he's just, you know what? It's because he's not traveling as much.
Exactly. That's what he said at the last meeting. He said this has worked out really well for him because, going in person was difficult for his schedule previously.
Are we talking about Curtis?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, he thought enough of it before he and I talked that he had sat down with his wife and had that discussion and sort of agreed that it really was just one more meeting and he was already doing anyway. And so he could do it.
Okay. Well, I would ask them both to, do the email, resume, cover letter thingy like everybody else. So we've got them to
Okay.
officially consider. The only other comment I have is was it Keith Donahue that had rehabbed some projects as a property owner? That's also, can be useful on COA.
Yeah, and he had kind things to say about you, Tanya, when he was in Oakwood. He apparently had several COA applications for both major and minor works.
So having gone through the process, that goes a long way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another thing is, I think, I might be wrong about this, but I believe that, I think Curtis got passed over by the city council one time, maybe several years ago.
He did. It was right after
The
all
Cherry
the
House.
nonsense. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So anyway, that all seems to have calmed down. But we could decide that having Keith there was a useful thing. And it's actually good to have ended up with a list this long anyway. And whatever we do with this, we need to let some of these folks know that we're not kidding when we say we had a lot of capable people express interest, and we can't take everybody the same year.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to, but we don't want them to go away.
Well, can we encourage that they be committee volunteers?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, we can do that.
We actually ought to do that anyway, because if we would get them on these committees, then we would find out, are they the kind that will show up or not? And along that line, do we have anybody on one of these committees that we ought to be talking to anyway?
The only person who somewhat expressed interest was Nicole Goolsby, but then her schedule got very busy and she didn't think that she'd be able to dedicate as much time. Currently, she's just on research, but I don't know. That was probably 2 years ago. So I have no idea if she is still interested or thinking about that. I think Jenny told her, so it must have been 2 years ago.
Okay. So, so we could think that we were going to try Curtis and figure it was okay if Laurie stayed off more than 1 year, but come back and pull her in again later. She seemed to be really serious that she had enjoyed this and missed these virtual meetings. So
So the other thing to do is what y'all have done prior to last year is, with 2 vacancies, you would offer up, 3 or 4 really good options.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, and then sometimes, like last year you said, well, this is who we suggest. So there are different possibilities. But if you don't necessarily want to decide specifically, then that is
Yeah, and there's risk if we pick one or the other, and then whatever reason somebody on the city council doesn't like them, then we are less likely to get somebody we wanted at all. So we could decide we were going to put up several, like you said. I think we should be prepared to have that discussion at that next meeting, and maybe we turn in more than one name. By then we'll have whatever else they wanted to say to us.
Right.
We will have, if there is any other name. So to decide what are we going to do here, do y'all want me to reach out to Curtis and to Laurie and say, if you want to do it, you need to fill out this stuff?
Yes, yes.
Okay, fine.
In terms of us looking for additional designer potential for COA committee, have we specifically asked our current commissioners and past commissioner DRAC members if they have any recommendations? Just, I mean, if you're a designer or architect in Raleigh, you're much more hooked into, your coworkers that might be interested than we would be, which they know we're looking. So, but have we specifically asked if they have any recommendations?
Well, no more than the general discussion at the commission meeting. We told people that, we had 2 vacancies and we're particularly needing somebody with design skills for COA and somebody who lives in the historic district.
When is the DRAC meeting again?
First Monday of the month. So March 1st.
Well, why don't you all, at that DRAC meeting, if you will tell them that Kay and I asked specifically if they had names. But if they do, they gotta move on it. They only got 1 week.
And
You
if
can
that's
also actually just send them an email.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's fine. That's fine too. To do it that way.
that's obviously a big commitment. So even if it doesn't produce any applicants this time around, I think asking the question and getting the bug in somebody's ear for next year or the year after would be smart.
Yeah. Okay. If y'all want us to do that, then give us the list of who they are and the emails, and Kay or Kay will do it.
Oh, we can email them, the tracks. That's fine. We've got them on an email list. In fact, I'm pointing to Aaron. But you can't tell. You get to send the email.
Okay. All right. What else is? What else
Okay,
we
so
need to do?
you've talked to Ian. Do you want me to talk to Gaston to see if he has?
Yeah, if you talk to Gaston, and then I will I will talk to Ian. You want me to talk to Verche too?
Well, that would be good.
Okay. All right. Okay, I will do that. I will do that. So that's 4 things there. Okay. Is that all we got to do right now?
That's all I have.
Okay. All right. So, Aaron, I will say the other thing I learned while I was doing the demolition by neglect thing is that you really made somebody mad in the landscape world, because this contractor I was talking to that's over there to rehab that house on Person Street was telling me about somebody, and he may have said the name, but I honestly just don't remember. But anyway, that he was asking me if there was somebody, there was some name like Aaron or whatever, but he said, this guy's telling me that he will never seek another COA until there's turnover on the staff. So, but it goes with the territory. We make people mad sometimes, and I just so I don't know who is trying to put the mouth on you, but be aware there's people out there probably that aren't happy, and I don't know what's the matter with them. But you probably can figure out who it would have had to be. But it doesn't really matter. But I'm just sort of sharing the feedback. I think everybody's doing a great job, and a lot of it. And so, but I thought as long as I'm getting feedback and feeding it to John Reese or whatever, I'll pass along whatever I heard. And we'll go from there. So I don't have any idea, but it would be interesting if we find out a year from now that we've got 3 landscape projects over in Oakwood or wherever, Oakwood, where people tried to bootleg them in without a COA. That I wouldn't appreciate that. So anyhow, yeah. As I said, that's not coming from me. I'm just passing it along. It's not my view, but I would rather you heard it from me than wherever else. So, okay, anything else? Y'all got?
No, don't think so.
Okay.